Hey guys, welcome to the Liberal Hive Mind, a channel solely focused on exposing the abundant hypocrisy of the left. Now this is a really interesting concept. You know how I've been saying the last couple of days that Democrats seem to be lacking the ability to look at themselves critically? They can't admit what's wrong, what's not working, and so they're doomed to make the same mistake over and over. They're not assessing the problem properly. They're taking more of the "we're not the problem, America's the problem" approach. Or it was Joe Biden's fault. Oh, all those misogynist Latino men and self-hating white women, I mean, that seems to be the approach, rather than realizing it was the rhetoric and whatnot, and the lack of messaging.
Where they don't have an ultra-restrictive abortion law, they were voting more because they're like pocketbook issues matter more than if a woman in Alabama is able to get an abortion.
But they're going to do worse under a Trump administration. The only people that are going to do well are the millionaires and the billionaires.
And finally, we talk a lot about these different demographics and these assumptions of where they're going to go. Latinos in Texas, a district that's 97% Latino, went 75 percentage points for Donald Trump. Why?
Misogyny.
It's on the border.
It's
the border
misogyny.
crisis is on their doorstep. And they were begging people to care about it for years. We need to take some lessons.
That's what that was.
The lessons are not
Knock.
You know, it just seems as though they're just not getting it. They've completely lost the plot. They're out there in outer space. Well, now building on these concepts, I noticed something quite interesting in a media clip the other day that kind of highlights the problem. It kind of highlights the level of delusion that permeates, let's call it, the left-wing political conversation. Let me show you guys exactly what I mean by that. We got some stuff to get into, so let's roll the tape. All right, folks. So I have this interesting clip. Here's Jen Psaki on MSNBC attempting to highlight what went wrong in the previous election. But of course, there's a caveat, and that's what I want to focus on.
There is sexism, there's racism. All of that is true. But I also think there is a real question I hope people start looking at about who people are listening to. In my view, there was an over-listening to and an over-lifting up of people who left Trump, not people who left the Democratic Party. The people who left the Democratic Party are the people who are going to, win in the future. The people who left Trump, the never Trumpers who have important voices and that is not the winning coalition. And I think that is a takeaway.
Now, of course, you might have been listening to that and you might have said, wow, maybe even Jen Psaki's starting to get it, which sure, maybe to a certain extent, but did you miss this part?
There is sexism, there's racism. All of that is true.
It's like having conversation with a bunch of toddlers. Before you even think about slightly mentioning the truth that, hey, maybe we were the problem, you have to start by acknowledging all the sexism and racism out there that definitely and totally exists, and of course is one of the most major factors in this election. It's unbelievable. That's what they want to lead with. It feels almost oxymoronic. One of the big reasons why they lost is because of these constant accusations of racism and sexism. Vote for her because she's a woman, and if you don't, well, it's because you're a misogynist. That was kind of one of the main issues. Voters don't exactly like getting gaslit. That's the conversation you should be having. I wonder why we're losing all of these voters. That's what we really need to focus on, but also really important that we acknowledge that all of these voters are sexist and misogynists. They're going in circles. I hope I'm explaining it correctly and outlining it effectively, but it feels contradictory in nature, doesn't it? They can't seem to figure it out, and even focusing on the context that Jen Psaki was bringing up, that they were so focused on this whole rhinos for Trump thing, instead of focusing on important voting demographics, it shows once again that they just don't get it. She had another caveat there. We may have had an overemphasis on all of these never-Trumper characters, even though they're so brave and are such commendable people. You're talking about the Cheneys. You partnered with Dick Cheney trying to get the left-wing vote. You're out of your damn mind. These people have an inability to be actually self-critical, and even in moments where they're trying to, where you try to bring it up in a conversation in a room filled with 6 left-wing partisans, you kind of have to affirm the delusion as you go. Oh, we're doing so great. No, let's keep up with the racism stuff. But also maybe we should look on the other side. As we're losing so many voters, maybe we should focus on those people that we're alienating with all of these ridiculous accusations of racism and misogyny. Wow, it was so great how we partnered up with Liz Cheney, but maybe, we shouldn't have spent so much emphasis partnering up with Liz Cheney. I mean, it's like brain rot to me. How you have all these people who dress up in these fancy suits and ties with all this designer clothes and makeup artists, and the big glasses, of course, always the big glasses, as we know. The bigger the glasses, the bigger the brain. All these people are such dynamic experts on all these different issues. Oh, the news people, they can't seem to have an honest conversation. Like real brute honesty. Like the conversations that we have with our closest of family members and friends. You don't sugarcoat things, but that's all these people do. Any conversation, any interview, whenever it's relating to the left wing, whenever they're talking about internal affairs or engaging with left-wing politicians, what's the first thing that happens? Bring out the baby powder. You can't move forward like that, especially when your political party just imploded in the last election. I mean, just think about that. They lost the popular vote. Do you know how unimaginable that would have been? That wouldn't have even entered the conversation 2 years ago. They lost the popular vote to Donald Trump. They lost the House and they lost the Senate. Right now is the time of brutal honesty. Where do we go? And thinking about it, it's not exactly an easy question to answer. The Democrats don't exactly have a pool of talent to choose from. They've completely alienated the male vote. They're losing minority voters like you can't imagine. If the next 4 years is a 4-year track record of making America great again, I mean, where's the Democrat Party going to stand? After all the lies, all the deception, all the dishonesty, the weaponization of government, the ridiculous slander and ridiculous accusations, the anonymous sources, the phony FISA warrants, the violent rhetoric, the burning down of cities, their violations of civil liberties. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. If we're not having an honest conversation about that in 4 years' time, and the Democrat Party hasn't accepted why they are where they are currently in the political, let's call it, zeitgeist, then they might be in some serious trouble. They don't have some, enigmatic, charismatic leader to change their fate. They have alienated every dissenting voice in their party. Every rising star has been attacked, demonized, and systematically handled with. Bernie Sanders, Tulsi Gabbard, RFK Jr., and there's probably some more. How do you come back, especially when you are so delusional as a collective, where everything's make-believe, everything's political? Oh, don't go there, don't say this, just toe the party line, and constantly keep reaffirming people. It's delusional nonsense. It's enabling nonsense. The left cannot improve from here if they refuse to address the issues. If you can't just say the truth and bring it up without having to affirm all the other nonsense, well, then you're just not having an honest conversation and you can't improve. You can only cry wolf too many times until it backfires spectacularly in your face. We are witnessing that backfire. At least that's what it feels like. This is the backfire. Actually, this is probably the last topic I'm going to bring up. I think it's another great example. You've probably noticed on X, a lot of big accounts are talking about unifying the country again. It's time to bring voters together. As if now it's time to heal. But you won't notice a single one of those voters condemning all the rhetoric, talking about the assassination attempt and how their rhetoric led to that circumstance. You'll never hear them talk about the bogus 94 indictments, the weaponization of the justice system, the 4 years of Russia, or every other hoax. Now all of a sudden they've identified the issue. Oh, we're so divided. Remember when Barack Obama said that a couple weeks ago? But none of them want to talk about why or atone for any of it. They don't want to have an actual honest conversation. They always want to do the same thing. They want their cake and they want to eat it too. They want to be the party of unity and the party of tolerance, the party of la-di-da, kumbaya, bringing everybody together, but also the party that goes totally unhinged Karen on anybody who steps out of line. And of course, you can imagine the rancor that they save for their actual political opponents on the opposite aisle. Democrats and really just leftists across the board, I got one message, and let's just leave it at that.
Stop it. Get some help.
Anyways, that's pretty much what I got for you guys. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you did, make sure to leave a like and possibly subscribe. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.